This time next week, please God, it's Erev Rosh Hashanah. Many of us will be together. I think Jacob has sent many of you a request for doing honors, so we'll be looking forward to doing the services together. Tuesday, Monday night, Tuesday morning, not Tuesday night. Excuse me. So this time next week, we'll already be into the second night. For those who do the second night, so we'll see each other, please God, Monday night and Tuesday next week. That has kind of informed the way I thought we should run tonight. What I want to try and do is I want to just take you to the end of the alphabet, just so that you can at least recognize the very last bits and pieces, so that when you're reading on Rosh Hashanah, you'll be able to figure out what's happening. Because I think many of you now, particularly the people on this call, are now in a position to actually read from the prayer book. And we will go over it again after Yom Tov. We won't obviously meet next week. I presume we won't meet next week. And then the week after is also, I think, maybe what we should do is we should meet again after Yom Kippur. But in the meantime, I'm hoping that everybody will be empowered to mostly be reading during the High Holy Days. So I gave homework for lesson 7. We did lesson 7 last week. There you go. Remember, it's the resh. The rounded letter is the resh. And then we remembered the shin, and then we also did the sin. And we reminded ourselves that that's the second time we've learned an S sound. So in this,
I don't know if it's only me, but I'm seeing your desktop rather than.
Are you not seeing? Okay. Thank you. I appreciate you telling me that.
No problem.
Because I'm seeing my page. So thank you, Robs.
Sure.
Now it's stop screen sharing. And now let's try again to see what I see. And that is hopefully. Okay, Robs, do you see lesson 7?
Yes, yeah. It's there. Thank you.
Much appreciated. Okay, so lesson 7 last week. So everybody, that's what I'm hoping for tonight, that we actually just run through to the end of the alphabet. We won't do it nicely and slowly as we normally do and consolidate. We'll do that after, just so that everybody can recognize. Okay, so lesson 7 was last week.
May I have a page number, please? I'm a bit lost.
Lawrence, good question. What page number are we on? For those who've got a book in front of them, which is now many people.
49, page 49.
49. Thank you, Peter. Page 49. So lesson 7, page 49. So last week we did the last 2 letters that we haven't done. The lovely rounded letter, which is a resh. It's got this like rounded angle here, and it says re. And then before that, we had done the shin, where the dot is on the right-hand side. And now we did the sin, where the dot is on the left-hand side. And that makes a s sound, where this one makes the sh, this one makes the s. Welcome to Casey, who is just joining us, page 49. We're just noting that we're going to quickly run through last week's lesson, which was lesson 7. We're not going to do the practicing for lesson 7. We're going to rush on to lesson 8 and even 9, just so that by the time you sit down for Rosh Hashanah in less than a week, you will be able to recognize everything, at least to some extent. So the resh is the rounded one. It says re. The shin has the dot on the right-hand side. The sin has the dot on the left-hand side. And the taf you will all remember. So that actually then takes us to the end of the Hebrew alphabet. Aleph, Bet, Vet, Gimel, Dalet, He, Vav, Zayin, Chet, Tet, Yud, Kaf, Chaf, Lamed, Mem, and Nun, Samech, Ayin, Pe, Fe, Tzadi, Kuf, Shin, which also has a variation, the sin and the taf. You've learned the entire Hebrew alphabet. Mazel tov, you've done it. And then in terms of the vowels, we had before learned a, e, a, e, o, and o. That's what we learned before. Last week we then added, so we added the resh, shin, sin, taf. And then last week we also added a new vowel. The new vowel says Ooh. Ooh as in zoo. Ooh as in somebody hits you in the tummy, you say ooh. And there are two forms of the ooh. The one is when it's this vav with the ooh in the middle, with the dot in the middle. You see it's a little stick man who's being hit in his tummy with a ball, and he says ooh, as anybody would who is being kicked in the tummy with a ball. And then, so it's like the or. If the dot is on top, it would be or. When it's in the tummy, it's ooh. And then we have the other form of the ooh, which is the 3 dots diagonally across in a row at an angle, and that also says ooh. So when they are in diagonally across, they go underneath the letter. When they are inside the little vav, they go next to the letter. So basically what we learned last week is 2 ways of saying ooh. There's ooh and there's ooh. So that is what we learned last week. So we practiced that to some extent last week. Su, tu, Zulu, second line, boo, do, goo, oo. And then for homework, we said that people should try their best to do these pages. Let's just see. To do these pages here. Gadol, Hagadol, Hagibor, Hanora. And then the following pages. And normally what we would do now is we would be going over that, because that's how you learn. You have to consolidate the new letters with the old letters. Otherwise, a person's brain, it's very difficult to keep up. So we would normally be consolidating. But what I want to do instead tonight is rush on. So that what we do is we go on to the next lesson, which is lesson 8, because we are going to learn our last variations. They are not new letters, they are variations. And our very last vowel, we have 1 more. And then after the Yom Tevim, we'll get back together and consolidate. So if I go on to Hebrew lesson 8, do you see lesson 8, or are you still seeing lesson 7? I see lesson. Thank you, Robin. Okay. Any questions or comments so far? All right. So lesson 8, we are learning a variation on something we've already learned. Now, when you look up there, and sorry, what page are we on for lesson 8?
58.
Thank you very much. Okay. So when you look at this, you'll say, well, that is new. I've never seen any of those things before. How can it be a variation? These are 5 new letters. What the hell is she talking about? But what you're going to see in a moment is that actually they're not new. They are a different form of letters you already learnt. And they are things called final letters. Very strange idea. We don't have such a concept in English, but in Hebrew, there are just 5 letters that when they occur at the end of the word, they change their form. They look different. They don't sound different. They sound the same. They are the same. They look different. They take a different form when they come at the end of the word. Now, let's start with ch, the chaf. The chaf, it can also be a kaf, so it can have a dot in it. Same thing will happen. Now, you see that chaf. It's this rounded letter. Now, what I want you to imagine in your head is that chaf is made out of a piece of wire or string. And then I want you to just leave that little chaf lying on the page in front of you. But because it's made of wire, you can just take the end and you can just pull the end downwards. Just pull the end down, and that's what you get. So what happened is this little leg traveled downwards. And it became, instead of this lovely chaf, it became something called the final chaf. And that's why when you read the word Baruch, as you read many, many times in every service, when you read the word Baruch, you look at it and you think, what the hell is going on? What the hell is that letter at the end? I don't know it. It's simply a chaf. But because it comes at the end of the word Baruch, it's the last letter in the word, its leg is pulled downwards and it looks like that. The sound is the same. Now I'm going to skip out the mem for now, and I'm going to go on to the nun, the pei, and the tzadi. The nun, the pei, and the tzadi, exactly the same thing happens with their leg, with the underneath piece. You take that little piece, you pretend that it's made out of wire or string, and you just take that piece and you yank it downwards so that it is in a straight line. And look what happens. You got the final nun. You've got the pei. It can be a fei or a pei, with or without a dot. It looks like this. You take the little leg at the bottom. You pretend it's made out of wire. You pull it and you yank it. You yank it down, and then that's what it looks like. It becomes a final fei. And the tzadi is exactly the same. You take the little leg and you yank it down, and it looks like that. So if you look at them carefully, you can see that it's the same letter. The top one, the chaf, maybe it's a bit less because it's actually not that much rounded on the top, but it is actually exactly the same letter. It's just that it now has a straight and long line. And if you are writing on a line, then this bottom bit protrudes beyond the line, protrudes under the line. So it actually goes underneath. It's a long letter. And then a funny thing, sorry, Peter?
So it could be confused for a resh or a dalit a little bit.
Yes, it could, exactly, which is why it protrudes below the line.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it would look a lot like a dalit. Exactly, or a resh, actually. So you're quite right, Peter, but it now protrudes below the line. And it can only happen when it's the last letter of a word, Baruch. And then Mechamocha, the same thing. No, not the same thing. That's got a hey at the end, excuse me. We'll come to our examples now. So the same thing with the nun, the same thing with the pei, fei, the same thing with the tzadi. Now the mem is a bit funny, and it's a pity because otherwise it would be nice at least to have like a consistent rule. So the mem also has a final mem, but the final mem, instead of being pulled downwards like the others, just closes up this little hole. So when it's at the end of the word, the mem just closes up this little hole, and it's a final mem. The sound of it is exactly the same. So let's just look at a couple of examples. Okay. I don't like that example very much, so I'm just going to carry on. Okay. So let's start at the top of this page. Let's take this word af. So you can see here, nafal. That's how the fei looks when it's in the middle of the word. When it's at the end of the word, af or kanaf, it just got its leg pulled downwards. Similarly, here is the tzadi in the word tsava or in the word ratza. But when it's at the end of the word, Eretz Yisrael, and Eitz Chaim Hi, it has the stick pulled down at the bottom. So that's what it looks like in the final form. So what is a little irritating in terms of the book is that with the chaf, they've introduced this little thing here, which is actually a silent vowel that we are going to learn about today. But they've put it into the reading before they've actually taught it. So what I want you to do for now, please, is just to ignore those two little letters. So I'm going to read for you so that you can see what we're doing. So line 1. Kach. So can you see it's a ch? Kach. Bach. Bacha. Lach. Modim anachnu. Lach. Sich. Alecha. So look what happened here. This final ch got a vowel in it. So a final letter can also get a vowel in it. A, le, cha.
Oh, so when when a final letter gets a vowel, it's not underneath, it goes inside it.
That's right, because
With
there's kind
all
of
of
no
the-
space underneath, because it kind of took all the space already, the underneath space.
So are they all like that next to it?
Yes, I'm just trying to think about the mem. Yeah, even the mem.
Okay, thank you.
So, and then the final one, beiteich. So you see how the chaf now looks different because it's at the end of the word. The second line, mim, mayim, im, mek, lahim. In fact, it's lahim, lechem. It's in Beit Lechem and Heim. So what happened was this lovely little mem just got closed up at the bottom here, and that converted it into a final mem. Third line, nun, mina, ben, Aden, Haman, neder, Nelech. And then line 4, which is now using the fe, kaf, perik, daf, kanaf, elef, and Purim. Can you see Purim there with its final mem? So just to go back up again, here you've got these 5 letters, ch, m, n, f or p, and s, that when they occur at the end of a word, you get the, Peter, I think you've got another device that's trying to enter the room.
Yeah, I am. I'm just, because I can't hear on this one. So please just bear with me for a minute.
No, no problem. I've just admitted you. Okay. Okay, so those are the 5 letters. At the end of a word, no problem. When they occur at the end of a word, they take a different form. Any questions so far? It's okay all in abstract. The difficulty is when you try to actually read it, isn't it? So now, that's what we're going to do. Okay, so because I still want to teach you the final vowel that you've got to learn, we're just going to do just a few of these lines, just to see if you are getting the hang of it. They don't all deal with final letters, but they just throw in a few final letters here and there. And then they also try to do a few things to confuse you, as you will see. So let me do line 1, and then I'm going to ask someone else to do it after me. Marom, modim, manos, modim, and shalom. So you can see shalom is written with a final mem. And you see here the third word, they tried their best to confuse you. What's that? Is it a mem? No, but it looks similar to a mem. It's a samech, but you can see that it's much more rounded, whereas the mem has got that sort of hard corner. Anybody want to attempt line 1?
I don't mind.
Thank you, Robin.
Marom,
Good,
modim,
good,
manos,
good,
modim,
good.
shalom.
Excellent. Anyone got any questions about line 1? Okay, I'm going to do line 2, and then I'm going to ask someone to do it after me. So it is a little bit intimidating because we've gone much faster than we normally would have. Line 2. No, ten, go, el, gefen, go, nev, Nofel, and Gonev. You see what they did with this last letter? That's a vav, right? It doesn't have the elongated stick down here. So it's not a final nun. The final nun, it's got to go lower. But they just put that v in there just to see that your eye can distinguish between the final nun, which goes down, and the vav, which stops on the line. I hope you see that little trick that they're playing there. Geffen reminds you of which word? Anyone reminded of anything by the word geffen?
The wine. The wine.
Exactly. Thank you, Lawrence. Bore, priha, gaffen. The same word in a different form. The fruit of the vine. Anybody want to attempt line 2? Any takers for line 2?
I will now.
Thank you, Mark.
Notain,
Good.
L,
Good.
Nefesh,
Try it again. The first letter is
Ge,
good.
Gefesh, Geffen.
Geffen.
Yeah,
Geffen.
like Aki Geffen.
That's right. Exactly, Mark. Geffen. But
Okay.
you made an interesting little point there, because you nearly
Yeah.
said cha, right? You nearly
Yeah.
said gefech.
Yes.
If you look a bit lower down, you'll just see that the final n and the final ch are very similar. But the
Yeah.
ch, like the n when it's not final, extends a bit further.
That's right.
It's got a sort of longer roof on the top. So that's geffen. Well done. Next one.
Sorry.
Please mute.
Gonave,
Gonev, well done.
Nofel,
Nofel, well done.
and Gonave.
Gonev again, well done. Very well done, Ma. And you didn't fall into the trap of thinking that was a final nun. Well done.
Well, you just pointed it out. Thank you.
Good, good. Okay, line 3, I'm going to read and I'll see if there's any takers. Yachad, Yosed, Hodu, Hamon, Yachad, and Chazak. You all know the word Yachad? Yachad, Yachad Kulam. Anyone knows what it means? It means together, Yachad. Comes from the word Echad, one. Okay, any takers for line 3? We want to try line 3. If not, don't worry, I'll just keep going because it's just practicing for now. Yachad, so they're trying to show you that the daled at the end of the word is not the nun, right? You could confuse it with the nun, but it doesn't extend beyond the line. It doesn't go down into the realm of the vowels. It's just yachad. Yosed, hodu, hamon, yachad, and chazak. Chazak, chazak, vanit, chazek. All right, now I'm just going to do
Sorry, now what was the third word?
hodu. So you see that they're giving you those 2 vowels. Hodu.
Okay, got it, thanks.
All right, so I think let's do line 5. We'll do line 5 and we'll do line 8. And then if there's time just now, we'll come back. So line 5 is testing, it's just showing again the nun, the chaf, the mem. Ratzon, dorot, derech, dorot, rasha, and shem. Shem, the name, Hashem, Hashem, the name, Hashem.
Le'el,
Yes.
I'm sorry, it's like completely left field here, but 2 dots up above one another, that one, yeah.
Yes. So that's the one that they really shouldn't have put in yet because they haven't taught it. That comes in the next lesson and we're about to learn it. It's the very last thing you learn in Hebrew. So I don't know what possessed them to put it into lesson 8 when they know they only teach it in lesson 9. You'll meet that little creature in a minute. It's the very last thing you have to learn.
Can you tell me what it is?
It's a silent vowel.
Okay.
Hey, what? A silent vowel? How on earth could there be a silent vowel?
As opposed to a silent consonant, they're very different.
Exactly. It's a kind of a ridiculous idea, but you will see that it exists and it matters. All right, let's do line 7. Eif, Eitzim, Yom, Yamim, Eitzim, and 8. And just for fun, let's do line 8. Tovim, Kol, Olech, Lachem, Lahen, Kol, and Ze. So on the next page, which I've kind of forgotten what the page number is now.
65.
Thank you. But what happens on page 65 is that you see here some words that all come from the prayer book. And basically what this is now showing you is that you can actually read the prayer book because aside from the silent vowel that we're about to meet, hi Reva, nice to see you back, thank you. You can actually now read everything. And Reva, you and I will go over these silent letters together. So I'm just going to read you three lines. We're going to come back to this in future. Line 1, Et, that should be fairly easy. Shem, Hamelech, Hagadol, Hagibor. Line 2, Kadosh, Hu, Kulam, Shamayim, Ze, Mize. Line 3, Baruch, Melech, Haolam, Yotzer, Or. So you can see these final letters. If you don't know the final letters, then even any prayer you pick up, the Friday night, the Kiddush, anything you pick up, you immediately run into problems because this cha, you won't recognize as a cha. And that cha occurs in Baruch, it occurs in Melech, and then Olam has the final mem. So until you've got your final letters, it is difficult to read the prayer book. But now that you have them, you will see that it is much easier. So I'll just do a couple more lines. Line 4. U vore, choshech, o se, shalom, u vore. Line 5. Et hakol. You're beginning to recognize this, I hope. Ha meir, la'aretz, that's a final tzadi. Aleha. So what we've learned now is we've learned that 5 letters in Hebrew take a different form when they are the last letter of a word. The cha, the chaf, the mem, the me, the tzadi, the tsa. This one here, the word is Zion, Zion. That's the final nun. And then the last one is the final pei or fe, which perhaps doesn't occur here. Let's just see. It isn't in this particular exercise, but for example, the word elef has the final fe. So we will come back and practice these so that you will, then your eye will very easily be able to distinguish when you are seeing a final letter, and you'll see that it's actually not a particularly hard thing. It's just unexpected. Why on earth would here we go. Eden, Eden, Elef, Adom, Magen David Adom, the red Magen David, Adom, Eretz, Akum, and Ach. So now what I want to do is I want to just teach you this final vowel, in which case we will have completed the whole cycle, except for consolidating and practicing. But before I do that, any questions on these final letters that we've learned today? Reva, you and I will go through it separately. Any questions on these final letters?
Lucky they're only 5.
Lucky they're only 5, absolutely right. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull up lesson 9, being the last lesson. I don't share my screen yet. I just want to pull it up first. So those of you who are working in your book, you can just figure out which is what is the page number for lesson 9.
69.
Thank you very much. And I am just gonna run through to lesson 9. There it is. I may have too many things open. Might struggle. Let's just see. All right, let me do the right thing, which is to stop sharing. Find lesson 9. And then share my screen.
Page 69.
There we go. I've got lesson 9. Okay, page 69. So let me come back here and share. Zoom meeting, share screen, the Shva. So ladies and gents, you come to the very last thing that you learn in Hebrew. And that is this rather cruel little thing called the Shva. So the Shva is the most odd concept. It is a silent vowel. Now, why on earth would you need a silent vowel? Well, firstly, let's remind ourselves what we already learned. For the vowels, we've learned the A, the I, the E, the A, the E, the O, the U, and the U. Those are the vowels we have learned. Now, we get this little creature over here, 2 dots under each other, like in English, it's a colon. It occurs under a word, and its sound is nothing. Why have it? Let me also just say, I don't love the way that they're presented in this book. So I'm going to give you a slightly different story from what they give you in the book, but it'll all come together, you'll see. Why on earth would you need a silent vowel? Well, why did you need a silent letter? Why did you need an aleph? Can somebody remind us, why did you need the aleph and the ayin? What is their job?
As
To give something-
placeholders.
Sorry, who was that? Was that Peter?
Placeholders.
Well, a placeholder. Give me a bit more.
Something
Well,
to give.
at the end of the word.
Yeah, sometimes they really are just silent. Sometimes. But they've got another and in a way more important function.
To
And what's
give
that?
something for the to give something to hold the sound of the vowel.
Thank you. So to give the vowel an opportunity to say its sound without having to be attached to a letter.
Yes.
So it gives the vowel its own life.
Yeah.
This is not so much an ideological point as it is a point in relation to the sound. Because if you need to say Abba, the first part of Abba is A, not Ha or Va or Ba or Ka, just A. So you want to be able to say ah, you want to be able to allow the vowel to say its sound without having to be attached to a letter. Ah,
Yeah, but it couldn't just float on free air. It has to have something above it. So it's below or above, which tells us which sound it was. So logically, you have to have that silent aleph.
that's right. And in that sense, Peter's right that it is a placeholder. It holds the place for the vowel. Sometimes it is also just silent. It has no vowel. It's quite rare. Now, the silent vowel. Think about a letter that wants to say its sound, but without attaching that sound to a vowel. So what if you just want to say ba? Not ba, not b, not be, not boo, not bo, just ba, or sh, or la, That's all. But, so the schwa has two functions. The one is to allow a letter, a consonant, just to say its sound. And the best way to remember it, they introduce it here as a short sound or a slurred sound. I don't really like that idea. I like to just say, when you were learning your alphabet as a child, the teacher said to you, what sound does an S make? And you say, S. What sound does a T make? And you say, T. That's all it is. Not ta, not te, not to, just T. So when you see a vowel, when you see a letter that has the silent vowel underneath it, it is simply a way of saying, of letting that letter say its name, say its sound. T. Now, as you will see now, it also has another function, and that is it can serve to break up the what is the word when a word has more syllable? Thank you. To break up a word into different syllables. So sometimes it just allows you to finish off a syllable before moving on to the next one. So I am going to give you the example here. Tish, ma, ru. So the first, if you just take the first two letters together, tish. So it's not T-sh. It's actually operating as a syllable. So it's tish. And the job of the vowel, the silent vowel there, is just to signal to your brain that, listen, this is a break. Tish. But now the ma wants to be able to say its sound. What sound does a mem make? It says ma. Tish, ma, ru.
Le'el,
Oh, sorry.
All right, Casey, then Riva.
if before you said all of this, I would have written that without the two dots, because then it would have been tish with no vowel. You just don't put a vowel underneath, and then you get the same, do you not?
You do. So if you had no vowel there, then hopefully your brain would just say tish maru.
Yeah.
That's it. Yeah, that's exactly what I was going to say. You don't need it there, because without those vowels, we must still read tish maru.
That's
So
right.
you don't
So
need it.
if your brain does that, terrific. What Hebrew is doing here, it's simply giving you a little signal that, listen, just break here. Or for example, with the word Baruch, I think they've got the word Baruch, or here, the word, all right, let's take the word Elech. You see the word here in the middle, Elech.
Yeah.
So you see here, they've put the shva into the final chaf. They also do that in Baruch. Elech. Right? So it's not doing anything. It isn't even dividing it into a syllable there. But because it's silent, you just carry on. Hopefully your brain just says, Elech.
Is that a cha?
Yeah, that's a cha. Riva, that's
Is
a
that
final
a
cha.
final cha?
That's a final cha.
Looks like a D.
Yes, so you and I will go through how to distinguish that. Or take this last word, mimech. So the shva just sits there, doing nothing. But it's just saying to you, okay, that's the end. Mimech. Then, or take this word, bach. Bach. Do you need the shva there? You don't. Bach. Who needs the shva there? But sometimes it's there. Or the word here, see, they say it's short. I don't know where they get this, or if they're using that weird sort of Eastern European pronunciation. Shut. The word is shut. Shut. It's just saying, okay, stop. It's enough. But sometimes, especially at the beginning of a word, but not always. So they say it's the beginning of a word. It sometimes isn't the beginning of a word.
Can I ask a stupid question?
Yeah.
This funny thing you're talking about, whatever it's called, shva, it can be vertical or horizontal.
No. When it's horizontal, it says A. Right?
And when it's under the mem that finishes the word, is it still horizontal?
I don't think you would ever get it under a final mem.
Oh,
But let's take these lines 1 to 4. Let me show you what's happening here. This first word is a word that is familiar to you. Pre. So when you start reading, you say pre, because that's what it is. The first schwa just lets the p say its sound p. Pre. And then as you go on, you realize it's not quite pre, it's pre. Pre. Same with the next one. Shmi. Shmi. Third one. B'nei. So here you really do say the b. B'nei. L'chi. B'li. Now you know the phrase bli yadayim? We used to say at school, oh, that boy is bli. Bli yadayim means he doesn't touch girls. B'li, bli. Shvi, shvi. Let's go to line 2. Kadosh. Melo. Meloch. Shemor. Yesod. And then line 3, and this is particularly prevalent at the beginning of a word, you just let the vowel say its, the consonant say its sound. Va'or, v'gad, v'dor, v'hu, v'zeh, v'zot. And line 4, ge, du, la, ke, tu, ba, ke, du, sha, she, vu, a. So as you can see, yes, Casey.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but in the word 3 lines up, shemor.
Yes.
So I would read that as, with the 2 dots, I would read it as shmor. And without the 2 dots, I would have said shemor. So
it's the other way around.
So Richard, yes, actually, most correctly, it's the other way around. With the 2 dots, you should say shamor.
shemor.
But the truth is, what happens is, and this is, I guess, what happens in language, your ear comes to know
Yeah.
whether it's shamor or shmor. And I tell you what the word is. Shmor tzeiteinu uvo'einu l'chaim u'l'shalom. Shmor. So you don't say, what do you? Shmor tzeiteinu. If you said shmor tzeiteinu, also fine. Also absolutely fine.
So what is it now? Right now it's shmor.
Shamor.
It's shemor.
Shamor. Yesod. But even that shamor, in practice, will often morph into a shmor.
Okay.
And Hebrew doesn't really like leaving a letter without a vowel like that. So most of the time they'll put the silent letter in. And sometimes it really is distinct. Yesod looks the same as shmor. But yesod, Karen Hayesod, is what? The JNF. Yesod. So there you really have to say yeah. You can't say sod. Yesod. Or v'zeh, v'zot. You really have to say. So I always say that the best thing to do with the shva is to try to allow the letter to say its sound. Shemor, yesod, kadosh, melo, meloch. That's what it's there for. But sometimes in practice, it kind of slurs into the sound. When you see the shva in the middle of a word, like here at the bottom of the page, it's generally there to just finish off a syllable. Yish, tu. So the first one is actually doing the job of just creating a break. The second one is saying its name. Yish, her, tu. Tim, se, u. Shiv, te, cha. Shiv, te, chu. Tish, me, u. Mish, pe, chot. Chas, de, cha.
Okay.
So basically, when you see the shva, the truth is it isn't like a hard and fast thing. You often have to just glean what's happening by just trying to read the word. And what's great about the prayer book is that it's because it's familiar. Most of it is familiar. You will quite quickly be able to figure out what's happening with the shva. You will quite quickly be able to figure out that tish, ma, u. The first one is just ending a syllable, and the second one is saying the name of the mem, the sound of the mem, tish, ma, u. But the truth about the shva is that you kind of learn it in practice. And then the very last thing to say is that
So before you go there now, that last word in line 2,
yes,
it sounded like you said haftacha, but isn't that a samach?
it is chas de cha.
How do you say it?
Chas.
Cha?
What's your second letter, Peter?
Samach.
Yes, chas.
Oh, so I don't say it.
Chas.
Chas, okay.
Chas
Chas.
de cha.
Chas de cha. Okay, got it. Thank you.
Your mercy, chas de cha. What's that dot doing in the dalet? God only knows. What do? We ignore it. Okay. Let's just go back to line 1. Yish, pe, tu. Tim, se, u. Shiv, te, cha. Tiv, te, chu. Tish, me, u. Mish, pe, chot. Chas, de, cha. Now, once in a while, they get very clever and they take the shva and they put it next to another vowel. Why on earth would they do that? Nobody knows.
Just to confuse us.
The word Adon, as in Adon Olam, the A has got a shva next to it. So what is, what do they always used to say to us at school? If you say 1 plus 0, it's always 1. Anything plus 0 is itself. An A plus a silent vowel is still an A. An E plus a silent vowel is still an E. Because here the shva is simply silent. So I realize this is a lot to take in one lesson, especially because the shva is truly
Confusing.
a difficult thing. Firstly, because the concept is quite difficult, and then it gets used in Hebrew in various different ways. But let's just look. I just want to read you lines 3 and 4, because you'll see actually how, okay, well, line 3, it actually doesn't matter the shva at all. They're just showing you that if it's next to, just ignore it. Ani, si, pa, rim, shi, ba, lim. So really nothing to be done there, and don't get confused.
Le'el,
Yes.
sorry, can you go back to the ach with the shiva next to it?
Yeah.
Because in the book it says that's O.
Where does it say that?
Yeah. Yeah, right. It was there. O as in low.
So Casey, from the beginning of when they started teaching, from chapter 1, in fact, I think I scratched it out in your book. From chapter 1, they consider the vowel A to say O. It doesn't. Nowhere in the world does it say that. Unless there is some, I don't know, like deep Eastern European pronunciation that they're working with, I don't know. And that's why I have slightly resisted this book in the past, because there are certainly things in it that I can only say are wrong. And the way that you know that I'm correct about this is the word Shabbat.
Shabbat.
Shabbat. Could you possibly say Shabbat?
Only if you were in a musical.
Exactly. You're not in the musical Showboat. That's exactly right, Casey. So actually, they use the but, and they say boat. It is not boat. It cannot possibly be boat. Otherwise, the word Shabbat would not be Shabbat. So I absolutely assure you that it is not or in any form ever. But for some reason, and this book is in its millionth edition, so I don't know why it hasn't been corrected, but it hasn't.
Okay.
So just
Sorry.
and I did cross it out at the beginning of the book, but I don't think I crossed it out here. Okay, so now what I want to do is just go through for the last couple of minutes. The different ways that the Shva operates. So this first one, at, it's at the end of the word. There's nothing more to be said or done. You know, most correctly or sort of mechanically, you would say at. And you would be perfectly in your rights to say at. But actually, that isn't what it is. It's just finishing off. And that often happens at the end of the word at. Then you've got, they say it's the first of two in a row, but really we're just talking about a syllable. Yish, ma, ru.
Ru.
And that's why I don't particularly like the way they explain it on the left, because then you start saying, if it's alone in the middle of the word, if it's the first of two in a row, if it's next to the vowel, this and this, whatever. Really, it does two things. Either it allows the consonant to say its sound, yish, ma, ru. So here the ma, it allows the ma to say ma. Otherwise, all it does is it's ending off a syllable so that your brain knows that you've got two syllables and not one. So my name, the name Lael, is difficult for people in English because you don't know that you're dealing with two syllables and not one. So people say Lael or La because they see it as one syllable. In Hebrew, it's two syllables. So Yish, Ma, Ru, Mal, Che. And then they're just reminding you that if the Shva comes next to another vowel, ignore the Shva. Emet, Asher. And then they're also saying sometimes, oh God, no. Then they're saying sometimes it sort of blurs into the next sound. Devar. But we don't say devar, we say dvar. Dvar Torah. And you will not know that from looking at it. There is no way of knowing that from looking at it. Mechanically, it should be devar. But from practice, you will know it's not devar, it's dvar. Yishmaru. And then they say that this changes it into an or. Well, anyway, it's not true. It's not right. So if you see it next to another vowel, just ignore the Shva. So it's a pity to sort of end the book on such a note of having to say that it's wrong, but unfortunately, that is the truth. And it's also a pity to end the sort of learning of the Hebrew with this rather difficult and kind of enigmatic concept of the Shva, because actually it can do more than one thing, which is why it's a little confusing. But the main thing it does is to either allow a word to say its sound without having to introduce a vowel. So Shema, Shema. You say it as Shema, Shema Yisrael. But when you look at it, it's actually Shema. Its second job is to close off one consonant and start another one. Here's the word, Yisrael. Similarly, line 3, it allows the mem to say its sound. Mezuzah. Mezuzah. Number 4, menorah. Menorah. Line 5, you'll see this very often. Beracha. How do you say actually beracha? Bracha. Brocha. But you'll learn that. Your brain will know. It says beracha, but it actually wants you to say bracha. Number 6, tzedakah. Tzedakah.
Tzedakah.
Ya, ru, sha, la, yim. Jerusalem. Number 8, here's a lucky one. L'chaim. Now, if you didn't have the shva to allow the lamed to say le, you would have to say l'chaim or lichaim or lechaim. It's not, it's l'chaim. You see, l'chaim. L'chaim, there it is. Now, here's a good one, and this will show you in practice how you'll see this. Avraham. So here, it's not Avraham. And your eye will learn that here it is, it's hanging out in the middle of the word there. It's just trying to end off the syllable. Avraham. If you were writing a test or you were doing a verbal test and you said Avraham, and the teacher said to you it's Avraham, you would be well in your rights to say, but it's Avraham, and it is that. But the context will teach you that here, it's not wanting you to say Avraham, it's wanting you to just finish off the syllable of, Avraham. Exactly the same with number 10, Yitzchak. Just ending the syllable. It's not saying Yitzchak, it's Yitzchak. And you will know that really from context. Number 11, Yaakov. It's right, Yaakov, with both the a and the shva next to it. You just do the shva. Yaakov. Number 12, an important word, mitzvah. Mitzvah. Number 13, even more important word, simcha. Simcha. Number 14, tefillah. Tefillah, pray. And number 15, Chanukah. Chanukah. So ladies and gents, you've now learned everything that there is to learn about the Hebrew alphabet. Unfortunately, the last things you learned, which were the 5 silent letters, the 5 final letters and the silent vowel, we learned in too much of a rush, and we would not normally do it this way. But what I am hoping is that when you look at the prayer book next week, you are going to just about be able to do the following. Sim, shalom, tova, uvracha, chen, vachesed, v'rachamim, aleinu, v'al. Okay, we'll come to this another day. It's actually kol, but it says kal. Va'al kol, Yisrael, amecha, barchenu, avinu, kulanu, ke'echad, or panecha. And then similarly, Yitbarach, Yishtabach, Yit-Ha'ar, Yit-Romam, Yit-Na-Se, Yit-Hadar. Number 3. Shira, Chadasha, shibchu, geulim, le shimcha, al sifat hayam, yachad kulam hodu, him li chu, amru. And I'll just do one more. I'll do two. Kone hakol. Zocher chasdei avot. U mevi goel livnei v'nehem. And finally, v'shamru v'nei Yisrael et HaShabbat. So my proposal now is that you take these last few pages and do your best to read them. What you'll see is that actually it's impossible to read Hebrew without knowing the final letters and also without knowing this weird shva. But it does require practice. What I hope is that next week when you look at the prayer book, you will be able to decipher actually everything. If you have questions between now and Rosh Hashanah, please feel free to call. I'm very happy to do a half an hour here, half an hour there with anybody. And then after Yom Kippur, I think we should do it that way. And I haven't figured out what the date will be and whether it will be Sukkot. But after the holidays, we'll start again on Tuesday evenings. And that will be then, we'll go back over these last 2 or 3 lessons and do them slowly and properly. But in the meantime, I hope that you will have had enough view of them to at least be able to follow the prayer book successfully next week. I thank you for your patience. I look forward to seeing everybody on our Zoom services. And I hope that you will just about be able to read everything yourself.
Thank you very much, Lael. So from me, I rushed back as soon as I could, and you don't have to worry. I think I've caught up. And it was terrific. And thank you so much. Thank you everyone for being with us. And Baruch Hashem, we'll be seeing you this Friday, Saturday, Shabbat, and then Monday, we're into Rosh Hashanah and back with Lael again. Shavua Tov.
No, we're not back with her.
Thank you. Thanks,
Thank
Lael.
you.
What was that?
Use your week well.